Friends of the media, welcome to today's press briefing. The Chief Executive will first deliver opening remarks before taking questions from the floor. Please keep a social distance. Meanwhile, we now invite the Chief Executive to speak. Friends from the media, Hong Kong citizens, this morning I learned from a secretary that he is now a close contact of a preliminary positive case, and I've been spending the whole day conducting internal investigation, and I'd like to give you an account now. From the information we learned, since this is a preliminary positive case, the information doesn't come from the Center for Health Protection, but from our internal investigation. The formal investigation has not begun, but as a top government official is involved, we feel it necessary to conduct internal investigation and find out how many government officials are involved. The incident involves an individual whose names I will not disclose due to privacy concern, who invited guests to a gathering, and the gathering took place on the 3rd of January. Some of the guests were government officials, and one of the attendees of the gathering was subsequently sent to the Penny's Bay Quarantine Center the following day because the person is the family member of a confirmed case. So the person is regarded as a close contact and therefore sent to the quarantine center at Penny's Bay. This person has now been found to be preliminary positive in the quarantine center. And I think the Center for Health Protection has already confirmed that this is now a confirmed case. However, no case number has been assigned, and I don't have the specifics now. And this morning, I learned that Mr. Casper Choi, Secretary for Home Affairs, attended this dinner banquet on the 3rd of January, and very likely he would be regarded as a close contact. And from him and from organizer of this banquet, we learned that probably over 100 participants attended the banquet. And in this case, we learned one piece of information from the Center for Health Protection involving this preliminary positive case. The Center for Health Protection was told that she only attended the banquet at 9:30 p.m. that evening. So from the CHP's perspective, those who left the premises before 9:30 p.m. that evening would not be regarded as a close contact, for they did not appear at the same venue. And after learning this piece of information, we then moved on to find out how many officials actually attended this gathering in the evening of the 3rd of January. And so far, from what I have gathered, 10 colleagues attended the banquet. And based on the watershed moment, that is 9:30 p.m. that I just referred to, we would classify two groups of officials, those who left before 9:30 when the confirmed case arrived, and those who stayed beyond that timeline. And that would help us identify close contacts. And so far, what I can say for sure is that Mr. Casper Choi, Secretary for Home Affairs, is a close contact. And the Center for Health Protection, therefore, is arranging for him to be sent to the Penny's Bay Quarantine Center. And we also contacted the remaining 8 officials. In fact, the director of the C's office conducted this investigation on my request, and the 8 of them left before 9:30, as they are government officials, I am upholding this requirement very stringently. I would require them to prove that they had left the venue before 9:30 p.m. They could proffer proof in the following ways. For example, by use of the Leave Home Safe app, since they were required to scan the code on entry and on exiting the venue. And that would be one way to prove that the government official concerned had left the premises before 9:30 p.m. The second way is that these government officials would have chauffeurs who would act as a witness to prove that they had left the premises before 9:30 that evening. The third way is that perhaps they used the Leave Home Safe app on entry to the premises, but they did not press the leave button at the time of their leaving the venue. But then they probably used Leave Home Safe app again when they entered another premises, then that would be one way to prove their movements. The fourth way is that if the government official took public transport, then we could rely on the octopus card information. The Center for Health Protection agrees with our investigation and that these 8 government officials are not deemed close contacts. As for the remaining government official, his or her case is more complicated, and we therefore would pass this case on to the Center for Health Protection in determining whether this official is a close contact. I said that names would not be disclosed but due to privacy concerns, but then I need to disclose details of the 10 officials because they are public officers. The first one, like I said, is Casper Choi, Secretary for Home Affairs, who should be sent to the quarantine center as soon as possible. For 8 government officials who have come with proof that they had already left before 9:30 p.m., their suggestion is that they left after greeting and did not stay behind for dinner. And we have Undersecretary Jack Chan, Christopher Hui, and Chan Ho Lim, Undersecretary for Financial Services and Treasury, and ITB Chief, and Jiang Manlei, Political Assistant for Information Technology, and Wu Qingmen, and also Police Commissioner Raymond Siu, and Simon Pei, ICAC Commissioner. For the remaining official whose status is pending, that is Mr. Ao Gawang, Director of Immigration. We also have follow-up work to do. That is to say, we need to contact other government officials who were also invited to attend the banquet. Perhaps at this moment they have no idea of our progress, and the director of the C's office is now contacting all political appointed officials to see if they attended the banquet or not. And if the answer is in the affirmative, they would need to provide proof that whether they had left before 9:30. And the Civil Service Bureau at the moment is also contacting some senior civil servants. We believe not all civil servants would be invited, but then this individual might have closer liaison with civil servants in charge of certain portfolio. So the Civil Service Bureau is now contacting these senior civil servants to see if they attended this gathering on the 3rd of January. The third point is that we're going to thoroughly sterilize and cleanse the CGO. In fact, We're doing the same for the C's office at this moment. The other point is that since Omicron has entered the community, and in fact yesterday I described the situation as on the tipping point, and I would urge all PA officials and senior civil servants to avoid such gatherings and avoid bringing a heavier workload onto the Center for Health Protection. This is my account, and I welcome questions. Please introduce the media organization you represent before you ask a question, and please use a microphone. Economic Times. Good evening, Chief Executive Mr. Ao Gawang, Director of Immigration, is the official whose whereabouts could not be ascertained. That is, whether he left before or after 9:30. What transport did he take? And if this gathering sparks a surge in confirmed cases, would the SAR government be responsible for the emergence of the fifth wave, and would this affect your chance of being re-elected? And about the lady, in what capacity did she attend this gathering? About the Director of Immigration's position, his version is that he went after 9:30, but he stayed for a short period of time. He did not go to the core of the restaurant. I understand this restaurant has an outside dining area as well as an inside area. I remember when Dr. Zhang Chokwan was asked by reporters what close contact meant. She said that the Center for Health Protection would act according to guidelines and consider whether somebody is a close contact based on, for example, how long this person stayed in the premises and how long the contact lasted. I cannot speak on behalf of the Center for Health Protection. I'm not the official to determine such matters. I could only report to you that as the Chief Executive, we conducted the internal investigation, and I'm giving you this account right away. The situation is dire, and we have seen Omicron cases in the community. And I must say I feel disappointed for government officials or top government officials to attend a major gathering, especially the Secretary for Home Affairs. Now, for the 8 other government officials, they received invitation, and out of courtesy, they attended the banquets and they greeted the individual in question, but they did not stay behind for dinner. They only greeted the person, and they had kept the mask on. So I must say I am disappointed. We have been mounting an all-out effort in fighting the epidemic. As top government officials, there is all the more reason for us to set a good example and avoid attending private gatherings that may pose a major hazard. This is, after all, a private event, not a public event. So the secretary involved should be responsible. The same applies to persons under home quarantine who breaches the home quarantine rules. We must abide by these rules. Otherwise, our effort will be futile, and we won't be able to fight the epidemic. And this is, in fact, the situation in Western countries. This morning, in fact, I learned that the public mounted protests against vaccination, and I am disappointed in these government officials. I really don't know how I should answer you further. I am in charge of the SAR government, and it has never occurred to me whether I would stay on as chief executive. But as long as I'm still the chief executive, I will do my level best to carry out my duties, be it fighting the epidemic or otherwise. So please don't say that whatever I do is related to whether I want to be elected or whether I want to be popular among the public. These are not matters of my concern as far as re-election is concerned.
Next question, please. I'm from Cable News. Just now you mentioned that you are very disappointed with Mr. Caspar Tsui. Do you think he has to take responsibility by stepping down? And yesterday you said that the top management of Cathay Pacific should take responsible for the behaviors of their colleagues. Are you aware that there were so many top officials attending this gathering, and do you think you should take responsibility? The gathering was attended by more than 100. Were any restrictions being contravened? And did Mr. Ngau Kao Wang not use the Leap Home Safe app? Why is it that an investigation is required? Every leader has the responsibility to lead, to take responsibility. I can't say that I don't have to take responsibility simply because I'm not aware of it. But the extent of this responsibility is not that I have to take responsibility for every individual's behavior. If I fail to lead Hong Kong against this battle, of course I have to take responsibility. I have never shirked my responsibility as the leader in this fight against the pandemic, as the chief executive. For the undesirable behavior of top official, I will take appropriate action. But at this point, I will not announce what action that will be. Because of the gathering, a lot of tracing work has to be conducted by the CHP and risk is caused. Of course, this is very frustrating. Whether restrictions or rules have been contravened, we will follow it up very seriously. Rest assured. We will carry out very thorough investigation. If there is anyone who should take responsibility, he or she will. The direction of the investigation is whether the restaurant has met the requirements under Cap 599F. A moment ago, I directed the FEHD to carry out an investigation for me. The restaurant is a Category D restaurant. Category D restaurant. The requirement is that 2/3 of the guests have to be vaccinated. The FEHD will be responsible for investigation. If there are any contravention of rules, we will definitely take actions. Next question, please. The lady in the front.
The first is, apart from the government officials, we also know some lawmakers also attended this party. Do we now know which lawmakers also attended it? And did some of them meet with the director of the State Council's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Mr. Xia Baolong, at a meeting yesterday? The second is, will this incident affect the operation of the government as the officials came into contact with suspected COVID case and have to be quarantined? Does the government have some protocol in place to make sure the government's operation will not be affected under such circumstances? Thank you.
The first question is, I don't know. Because normally when there is a confirmed case that needs contact tracing, the work is carried out by the Center for Health Protection. So we will know more from the Center for Health Protection's contact tracing and other investigations. The reason why I can stand here to tell you a bit of details about this particular case is because I was prompted this morning that one of my principal officials, the Secretary for Home Affairs, attended that occasion and was likely to be a close contact of the confirmed case. And since I gather from him and other sources that there could be other officials who have attended the occasion. So from morning till now, through the director of the Chief Executive's office, we have done our internal investigation to identify as many as possible those colleagues who have attended the occasion. And hence, I could share with you this list of 10 officials altogether. I don't know about the electrical members, except reading from the online news that perhaps a few had also been to that occasion. And the necessary action to be taken by the members themselves upon the advice of the CHP and also by Electrical Commission in terms of cleansing and so on, these are for the Legislative Council to decide. And whether these close contacts of a confirmed case, close contacts, where are they, what would they be infected, then you have to leave it to the Center for Health Protection. But generally, my understanding is for a confirmed case, close contact, the next layer of close contact will be those who are living in the same household. So we will not go that far to involve a third party who has just had an encounter with the close contact of the confirmed case. Now, of course, the quarantine of important or senior officials will have some impact on the operation of the government. But as far as I could now share with you, there is only one principal official, that is the Secretary for Home Affairs, who has to be quarantined in Penny's Bay for a certain period. But I'm sure that in the Home Affairs Bureau, we have the permanent secretary, we have other people who could look after the work of the Home Affairs Bureau during his absence.
Next question, please. The gentleman at the back.
Mr. Slam, can you explain why you said you're disappointed in the officials? And that do you think that there's a need, as you said, the Cathay Pacific management people have to be responsible. Do you think that you also have to be responsible in this regard and in this case? And secondly, do you think that the government has to reconsider the work from home arrangement for civil servants, being that there is a possibility of a cluster emerging from this birthday party? Thank you.
Well, on the point about responsibility or accountability, as the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, I have the first accountability to the people of Hong Kong in fighting this COVID-19 pandemic. That's why the media have been seeing me very often. I never delegate the responsibility to account for the government's actions in combating COVID-19, including this incident. So I have accepted my responsibilities to that extent. But the principal officials and other senior officials of the SAR government have to perform their respective duties in observing the rules promulgated by the Food and Health Bureau, and also have to watch out their own behavior. They should not sort of be engaged in activities which will carry risks. And as a result, it will create more work for the CHP and also make things a bit complicated for their own bureau and department. It's very strange for you to ask me why I was disappointed, because we have been into this Omicron into the community a few days before the 3rd of January. That occasion took place in the evening of the 3rd of January. And prior to that, I have been warning people, and the Secretary for Food and Health have been warning people that we now is under a significant risk of the spread of Omicron into the community. And very specifically, the Secretary for Food and Health held a press conference on New Year's Eve, the 31st of December, after a meeting I chaired. She came out to explain the situation that we were in, and she said that she wanted to give 4 pieces of advice to the people of Hong Kong. And one of the pieces of advice is to avoid mass gatherings and to avoid taking off your mask. and to avoid taking photos without mask on when you were in such an occasion. So my colleagues apparently have not taken the advice of the Secretary for Food and Health. So how could they set a good example for the people of Hong Kong? But I would advise that in looking at these colleagues, maybe a distinction should be drawn between one who spent the whole night on the occasion and hence put himself in a highly risky situation that requires him to be quarantined, and others who just dropped by and to say hello or to congratulate the host and then left. So a distinction has to be drawn clearly in terms of whether they are sufficiently alert or responsible for their own behavior. Now, on the work from home, I've actually explained yesterday, we have
我尋日都解釋
from home in previous waves of the COVID-19 epidemic. And we realize that, especially now, we have so many duties to perform in the compulsory tests, the restricted testing notice every night, and the vaccination, and so on and so on. So allowing some of the civil servants to work from home may not be the best or the optimal arrangement for the people of Hong Kong because they have to provide service. But we have other means to reduce the people flow. They are coming in staggered hours. They are going out for lunch in staggered hours. And if they have counter service, they perhaps should find other means to prevent face-to-face contact. And for those really could work online, then heads of departments are advised that you could allow them to work online if there's no sort of detriment to the service that we are providing to the people of Hong Kong. But that doesn't mean that we are ignoring the need for caution. We are doing it in a very cautious way because we have 2 years of experience. So we know that now is the time to reduce people flow, and we have ways and means to reduce the flow of people as far as the civil service is concerned and as far as the overall community is concerned.
問多兩位，右手邊前排白色衫。
Two more questions. This reporter in white. I'm from Now TV. What time did the Secretary Casper Choi arrive at the venue and how long did he stay? When did he leave? Were there activities such as singing and dancing? And for how long did he not wear a mask? And the public feels that whilst we're in midst of the epidemic, we have principal officials attending major gatherings such as this, and the public are grieved. On behalf of your team as Chief Executive, would you apologize? I'm afraid I don't have detailed information because I am not conducting the investigation and contact tracing on behalf of the Center for Health Protection. But for sure, he is a close contact because he stayed inside the venue more or less at the same time as this confirmed case. So for the Center for Health Protection to issue a compulsory testing notice, they would specify the time and the premises concerned. And in the same vein, you will only be regarded as a close contact if you stayed at the same venue during the same time as the confirmed case. If you have left before the confirmed case even arrives, then there is no chance you are a confirmed case. But for Secretary Casper Choi, according to his own admission, he is indeed a close contact. And this is the work we did this morning. About accountability, I think I've answered a number of times. Every official should be accountable for his or her own actions. I am afraid I'm not able to give you a satisfactory answer. If all you want is for me to say that the Chief Executive should take responsibility over every matter and every action of the principal officials. This is not the duty of the Chief Executive. All I can say is that we are making an all-out effort in fighting the epidemic. We hope to put a stop to the spread of Omicron so that all businesses could resume their operation and that the public would be reassured during the Chinese New Year. The last question. I'm from Hong Kong 01. Good evening, Chief Executive. I understand you said the CGO would be thoroughly cleansed and disinfected, and the electrical complex would also be thoroughly cleansed and disinfected. Some civil servants might have been in contact with a possible confirmed case, such as the Home Affairs Bureau. Would flexible work arrangement or work from home arrangement be put in place? And for electrical members who attended and who could have been in contact with a confirmed case, would you consider imposing work from home arrangements to reduce the risk of spreading the virus? Well, of course, for a close contact, the first step we take is for the case to get tested. I can't speak on behalf of the Center for Health Protection as to how many CTNs will be issued based on this banquet. I think they need to carry out investigation first, but this definitely will be based on the advice given by the Center for Health Protection and not the Chief Executive, who is not a professional in this regard. We, however, would say that the testing should be carried out as soon as possible for next step to be taken. Of course, I do encourage going out less often if this is possible and reduce the gatherings you attend. But this is not a new policy. From an individual's perspective, they may have their own concerns. Perhaps they may refrain from going out because they've met with the secretary before. I think guidelines could be found on the CHP's website. It's not for the Chief Executive to decide. Thank you.